Whether it was seen as surprising or inevitable, Afghanistan's fall back under the control of the Taliban will be a mental blow to many servicemen and women who took part in 20 years of British military involvement there. Let's hear now from one of them. Brian Capstick is a farmer in Sedbergh and a former Army Sergeant Major who served for 9 years in Iraq and Afghanistan as both a soldier and a civilian. He's now part of a charity called the Rawley Project, supporting military veterans through some very tough times. Brian, good morning to you. Thanks for coming on this morning. What did you think when you saw the news from Afghanistan last weekend?
Good morning, Mike. I think to try and understand the emotions that course through the veins of not just the veterans, but also those that are still serving, who gave some of the best years of their life to a muddled mission in Afghanistan, you have to understand the start point and understand that many of us spent much of those tours of duty with protracted supply chains where we were already being let down by our government. We didn't have much of the equipment comparable to the Americans. Understanding people who are still eating their breakfast, we were still going to toilets in holes in the ground when the Americans were eating in Starbucks and huge dining facilities. And we were pushed forward. We were fighting in conditions not dissimilar to the First World War. And our relationship with authority from that moment on changed. And so the events of the last week have been a culmination of that. And as the crocodile tears flow, we must help people who have genuine concerns for the military community to understand that we have about 3,500 armed forces veterans in prison at the moment and in the criminal justice system. We're not sure about the exact number because many of them won't disclose their service as they're serving time alongside the terrorists that they fought for many years. So we've also got 120,000 veterans in housing need at the moment across the UK. So as you hear talk of 20,000 refugees coming back, those numbers quickly pale into context against that huge number.
You've spelt out a couple of examples there of how the ex-servicemen and women are suffering. Ultimately, how bad has it got for some people who served there?
Yeah, it's the biggest representation or the final representation is most often suicide. And I know earlier in your programme you gave the figures. We're over 50 suicides so far this year, 280 since January 2018. Yet the government still refuse for MOD to collate the data officially. These figures are being collated by volunteer groups of veterans who have said enough's enough. That they're collating the data that MOD should be.
Those numbers that you've given us, those are very high figures.
Yeah, and the government often brush them off because they say they're not too dissimilar to national averages. But they forget that our veterans and service people have passed the selection test to get into the armed forces. We're not drawing from the average person in civilian life. We're drawing from many of the best of their generation. And when we're losing the numbers we're losing, when we've approximately 10% of the prison population, those people that were drawn from the best of their generation, it needs to be addressed in a meaningful way.
So how can ex-service people or civilian friends potentially, Brian, support someone who's experiencing what you're talking about this morning? What can they do to help?
The most important message at the moment is that the armed forces community are in crisis. We're seeing people asking for support multiply. And for everyone that asks for support, there are many more socially isolating without that support. So my message to anybody who served in and amongst those difficult times is think of the people that were left and right of you at that time, those people that you put your trust in, that you were prepared to die for, and carry that ethos forward now. Get on the phone, talk to them, understand how they are, and help them access the support they need. The support is out there, but it's very muddled, it's very confused, and all too often it's too late. So my appeal is to the rest of the armed forces community: remember those people that were stood left and right of you and get in touch with them and see how they are.
Brian, thank you for being on the show this morning. That's Brian Capstick, a farmer and former soldier. Brian's in Sedbergh. Now he is from the Rothy Project. You can access their website. It's Rothy, rawthey.org. That's rawthey.org. It's named after the river in Sedbergh. You're probably aware of that. And if you need to ring him, Brian has said that we can give out his number. It is also on the website, but he has said we can give this out on air. 07894 739 232 is Brian's number. If you know of someone who's struggling, if you're struggling, then access the website rawthey.org, rothy.org, or you can call Brian 07894 739 232.